right. Come on. All right. Good evening, LinkedIn. Dave Wilson of the Ringer Hire Show. Hey, everybody. Tonight, this is my third time that I've had Mr. Andre Young, leadership, work-life harmony speaker, author, trainer, and founder of You Evolving Now. How's that, Andre?
That's perfect. Well said.
I'll tell you what, we're going to have a great show. I want to thank you for coming on tonight. We're going to be talking about this book right here, a lot of it, The Leader's Toolbox. You know, this is the second one. So I just got done talking to us, and when's the third coming? You said another year, right?
A couple
years. All right, everybody. We'll be right back after this video. You got to love it.
That was awesome. Like, show's over right there. That was epic.
That's what I say. How the hell do you go? How do you come on after that? You feel like you're ready to fight?
I am.
That was awesome. You know, I get that done on the Fever app or Fever app. It took me, I saw the guy, I put all the words into it. Took me over an hour, and $17 later, that was it.
That is $17 well spent, son.
Well spent. All right. You know, I got a lot of questions, Andre, and I'm just going to start right into it. You know, when I printed out your PDF there of your LinkedIn profile, I liked the one thing how you said about, you know, how we started out, our leaders don't know how to lead. Why would they? They get promoted for the first time, right? Yeah. But the part that I liked, how you said the fact everyone has a cell phone means their relationships and outside life are now with them all the time at work. That really resonated with me.
Well, the whole, I mean, this is really antiquated, thing now. Like, please leave your home life at home before you walk into the building, or crack open the laptop, right? And, working remote and hybrid. I mean, how old is it? The fact that we all have a cell phone means your wife, your kids, your husband, your life, your drama is now everywhere you are. And it's constantly ringing, dinging, and chiming with text or notifications or phone calls or FaceTimes right there. And then vice versa.
Yeah, that really resonates.
Or you shut down the laptop and your phone or computer may not stop ringing, dinging, or chiming with all of the work stuff. So the whole thing of leaving those two separate has been done. So how do we now do it differently and better?
And that makes total sense when you're trying to do your own work. You got things going on at home. You're trying to make decisions as leaders. You're trying to do everything like that. And you got that on the back of your mind all the time. Before, you didn't have the cell phones. You had one phone, the place would ring and get you to come answer the phone. That's just like And when I read that, I had to read it a couple of times. I was like, God, I didn't even think about that. But I really want to talk to you tonight, definitely about the Leader's Playbook toolbox here. This, I'll tell you what, this really, you outdid this one. I told you this is my favorite so far. And how the hell did you fit 36, 37 chapters? And how do you know all this?
Well, the funny thing is, years ago when I was speaking at an event, I had a guy come up to me who was running the event, and he's a speaker as well, a little older. And he said, you give a lot of information. You could probably piece it down and do this or do that. And I'm always open to feedback, because technically he was right. I can make a book or this about this. That's not my style or my philosophy. No. I want to give it away. I want to give so much. And I call it being the chicken, so you go to the food court and that lady says, you try this chicken. You weren't even thinking about the chicken, and now your whole family's eating chicken. I want to overgive. I want to over deliver. and I don't like fluff. So
No,
this is what we're talking about. This is why we're talking about, and this is what the heck to do about it.
but you're not joking when everybody, again, you get a chance right on Amazon. I told you I made it through first like 5 chapters. Everything's folded. And I was like, I've been there and done it. So for somebody that really wants to learn, because here I've been through a lot of this. I always use your word evolve. I like how you always say, and I use that every day. When I tell people you evolve, I like that word. But to put that much information, you really do give it away, because you can't get that much on some of the books today. And I got to give you really something, not just because you're on my show, but this thing was enjoyable.
Well, thank you. And you asked how I know, and a lot of it is through some of my successes. A lot of it is through some of my mistakes. I mean, I say we all manage before we know how to lead. Okay, so we manage. Typically, you get promoted.
Right.
You did one thing really well, which will no longer be your job once you get promoted.
Right.
Or you've outlasted so many people that it's like you're next up, or no, why not? So a lot of what I learned was making some mistakes. I said there's 5 types of managers, there's 5 types of leaders. But when I was first promoted, I was the ego type.
Right.
I needed everybody to be like me and have my superpower.
I saw that.
And I struggled to congratulate or lead people that weren't like me. And that was a rookie mistake that I made that I learned from. So a lot of what I teach in the book and in my trainings are some of my successes, a lot of my mistakes, and now getting to be able to move around the world.
Right.
It is impossible to move around the world and speak to so many leaders, so many professionals, so many frontline people. I could sit on a plane and overhear a conversation. Everything's a lesson. There's nothing there, or people say, hey, what would you do about this? And all of a sudden, oh, I know what to do. I simply haven't written about it.
Right.
So there's stuff everywhere. It's really cool.
We got Rob in the house. Rob, I know, has been excited to see Andre. I think you've answered a lot of questions for Rob. Rob's a great guy. He's always
awesome.
message. He says you always message him back too. You always message him back. I want to ask you about yourself here on this one. What leadership? It seems like when I do a show on leadership or bad bosses or something like that, it's always high. It gets good ratings because. Do you feel what is your passion? Why you do it, and how do you? You must really enjoy helping people.
Yeah. Well, I'll answer the last question first. I've always been a helper. So before being a professional speaker and leadership trainer, I was a mental health therapist for 19 years. So for 19 years, all I did and all I enjoyed doing was walking a journey with people. You don't always want to give all of the answers. Just because you have them doesn't mean people are ready for it. So meeting people where they are. And it was really big in what I talk about in leadership is marrying what you want to do and give with what they need most from you right now. So I learned that a lot throughout my therapeutic days. And then before that, even in high school, I was going through a yearbook years ago with my kids. And I was like, oh, I was in this thing called a peer group connection. And it was helping underclassmen and with life stuff. So I've always been that way. Your first question was, why do I do this? Yeah. I really thought that I would retire from being a therapist and working at a certain place that I worked at. And at one point in my life, I was the world's best employee. Says me. Says me.
Love it.
And with organizational change that I didn't like, with leaders that had come in that I didn't really respect. As a person, I respected them, but with their leadership, I didn't, their style.
Right.
I became the worst employee. I burnt out of a job, and I was a good person, and I saw a lot of good people burn. So I went through a lot of great times as a professional, and I went through some hard times that really changed who I was.
Yeah, you're honest in the book. You're very honest.
Thank you. And I tell people on stage, I was right about every single thing that I said, but I was so wrong about how often I said it, who I said it to, and how I disconnected from my team and my passion because of it. So I've been on both sides of a lot of things. And my last reason of why I do what I do is to be very honest. part of me, I didn't mean to do it.
Right.
You know, I started
Yeah.
off wanting to help men and then people, and it was all about work-life harmony and living your best life. And I really wanted to do that and impact professionals at their jobs because that's where people were. You didn't have to chase them down. They were already at work.
Right.
And I said, I want to do this for your people. And I was in enough meetings and the leaders or CEOs said, well, this is nice. But how the heck does this help us? Now, this is pre-COVID. Yeah. So work-life harmony was there and important, but it wasn't this big thing. And I said, oh my goodness, you want leadership, but I don't talk about leadership. And I went home that night and I reviewed everything that I was putting out. And David, guys, listening, I was already talking about leadership. I just never said the word.
You just never said the word.
I added the word to it and boom, it took off. And over the years, the content has evolved as well.
Well, when you travel, I know you've been all over this year. I mean, I see you all the time on LinkedIn. It's like, wow, look what state you're in now, and you're doing your seminars and all that. Why do you think there's a need for people to talk about leadership? Why is it such a good subject? Is it because, hey, we all relate to it? We do it every day. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. I'm like,
well, one, because the thing that benefits me and then that benefits everybody else. One, for me, leadership doesn't change, regardless of the product, the business, the people. Leadership, the concepts of leadership don't change.
Right.
So it's really good for me because it doesn't have to change. I don't have to know the business in order, because leadership is its own thing. Why it's so important is because from the beginning of time, people work in groups.
Right.
And everybody is a leader in their own right. So everybody at the very core, you're leading yourself. Okay. That's the basis of leadership, personal leadership, how you lead yourself, how you choose to show up to your life, your work, and your relationships with your head up, eyes up, smiling, doing your best and being your best. We can all be great leaders of our life. However, everyone cannot be the captain of the team. Everyone can't be the leader of the ship.
Right. I didn't think of it like that way.
True, how do we up these leadership skills? Because people don't mind following. This F word, like it's a bad word. People talk about don't follow. Well, doesn't that depend on who you choose to follow?
Yeah, I mean, geez.
So leadership is so important because they are looking, your people are looking. People don't mind following what seems to make sense, what's right, what gets results. But just because it gets results doesn't mean that it's good.
Yeah, that's good. No,
so there's so many other things that are valuable to leadership, and people will stay based on a better connection. So in this world, once COVID hit, you have hybrid and remote work, and now people can work from anywhere. People understood how important connection was.
That was one of my questions coming up soon about that. Yeah, I can't even imagine what was that something new for you?
It wasn't new for me because by that time I was already doing my business in a remote fashion.
Okay.
However, it was new for most of the world, a lot of the world.
Yeah.
We now have these employees at home and they're productive. They're way more productive than we thought. And I know a lot of employees were saying, see, I told you we could do it. Okay. But what happens is there could be a lack of connection because now people can work anywhere. So why should they work for you?
Right. I like that. Yeah.
Okay. So why should they work for you? If I could work for a company in Japan or Indiana, or I could move to San Diego, I could work anywhere. So I tell people all the time, it never ceases to amaze me how much more people will do for you, with you, because of you, and forgive about your request and a bit of organizational change and dysfunction when they have a better connection with you. But now, how the heck do you connect with people that you're not seeing every day?
Well, that's what I mean. Do you see a difference, like when your teachings and what you discuss and everything like that? Would it be two separate groups, or it's not? Like a remote group plus, working in an office. Everything's still the same.
Well, the first thing I would say is we connect because I like to give the how, not just the what. So if you're going to connect with people, and whether this is in your face, in a brick and mortar, or it's halfway around the world, we connect with the words we choose to use in our emails.
I guess that's worse. Yeah.
We connect with having our one-on-ones. It's the number one canceled and rescheduled meeting across all organizations. You want to connect better with your team, stop canceling them and have them correctly. It's not just about metrics and production and results. I start off my one-on-ones and I train people, look, what's the positive of the week? The first time ever as a leader, you go. So professionally, this is my positive. Personally, this is my positive. What's been good since we last met for you? Start positive. Then it's, what would you like to get out of our meeting today? I cannot tell you how much my business has evolved over the years by asking my virtual assistant, hey, what would you like to get? Oh, I was thinking this, this, and this. I can guarantee you that wasn't on my radar, David. I was not thinking about that. She's operating off of her superpower, and this is her idea. And as long as her idea fits within my vision and vision factors of where we're going, hey, why not? Or let's fine tune it. Or, hey, I love it. Let's do this in 6 months because right now this isn't on the map of where we're going.
Well, I like that in your book because you said, I mean, when you say that, I'm thinking the same thing. You know, I think people want to have their, their suggestions, ideas. But if somebody just shoots you down a lot and says, no, we can't do that. We can't do that right away. I don't think they step back. What I've learned or evolved is I step back and I just listen to it. I say to myself a couple times, then I'm like, okay, I see where they're coming from, because before I would jump the gun and say, no, we can't do that. How do you know that within the first minute, like you said? But that person was excited to tell you that.
Yeah, was excited. And sometimes, some of the people I work with are nervous, and I'm like, please, don't be like. I preface this. You have an idea. Well, we're going to have our one-on-ones, but you can always shoot it to me, and I'll teach something really quickly that will help. So with the one-on-one, hey, what do you want to get out of our meeting? Let's mesh some goals, because I have things I want to get out of the meeting.
Right.
The meeting's not an accident. I called it. We scheduled it. Okay. What's the plan? And then I'll always like asking, what's your biggest takeaway? What was your big takeaway from our meeting? Doesn't matter what my big takeaway. If you're the leader, doesn't matter what your big takeaway was.
Right.
Ask them. Whatever they say is more real and powerful, and you want them walking away from the meeting feeling like they got something, so they could go talk good about it somewhere else too. I preface all of that with, look, you have something to share. One of three things is going to happen. One, your idea is so daggone good, you blow my doors off, we have to do it.
Right.
Two, we may fine tune or collaborate because you don't see all of my emails that I work with and the people that I talk. So there's things that you may not know. So let's fine tune it.
Fine tune it.
Okay. Number three, I may say no to the idea, not because it's not a great idea, but because here's my vision and vision factors. So for instance, my vision is to be the best in my space of leadership and work-life harmony. I want to get wealthy in time and money and ideas I create in the company that I run. That's my vision.
Right.
Sounds cute, does nothing. My vision factors, the three things that I know when I do them consistently, my vision has to come true, is I need to create great content.
Yep.
Videos, books, trainings, online programs, things like that. Then I need to network appropriately. Who are my people? Where are they? And how do they want to consume what I'm giving?
Right. That's
and
us.
Then three, passive income opportunity. Okay. Can't get wealthy. Most of the time, you can't get wealthy at a job. You need passive, right? So when somebody comes to me with an idea and it fits in here, it's an easier yes or fine tuning. When it doesn't, I get to say, hey, it's not where we're going right now. It's not in here. Now, on your time, can you fit your idea inside of that? And perhaps we can move forward. Or it's not its time. Let's do this. Or right now, we're focusing on the online program. We need to get this perfect first.
That makes sense.
Once we do that, we'd love to revisit this. So you cannot like my no. However, I like to think that you can respect it.
And it makes sense because what I feel is some people are scared, not so scared, but they're nervous. Like they don't want to ask that question. They don't want to give those ideas. Because the leader might be someone that just says no, like I said, just constantly. They say, well, I don't want to give this an idea because he's going to say no or she's going to say no already.
I tell leaders this all the time. And, I've gotten to meet a lot of frontline people. Um, sometimes leaders mean well, and they say, "Look, I have an open door policy.
Come in.
Okay." But if nobody's coming in, then that's an issue.
I like that.
And maybe they're not coming in because every time they come in, you shoot it down, or maybe you rush them out.
See,
Perhaps they were professionally abused at another job.
Yep.
I was doing a training at an organization, and the frontline person I was talking to, and this is why it's so important to do work with frontline. And I'm speaking to organizations. Your emerging leaders are amazing. There's 1% of your population. Okay,
Right.
Your C-suite and middle management, you're going to get them trained. Your frontline need.
I like how you said that before. Front line. I like that. Your front line. That is your people.
What David and I was talking about is your C-suite and middle management and emerging leaders are the face of your company for your front line. But your front line is the face of your company to the world.
Yep.
Okay. So the customer at McDonald's is not ever going to meet the CEO of McDonald's. Okay. But they meet that cashier, Right. So I was working with an organization, and the frontline person I was talking to said, my boss here keeps encouraging me to come up with ideas and be more forthcoming. And she's getting frustrated that I'm not. But at my old job, I was told to shut the bleep up, bleep, bleep. Like I was appalled by some of the things she was telling me she had suffered at another job. And some people are professionally abused. You don't know who's sitting in front of you as a leader saying, here, come and tell me. Therefore, you may not be able to fully address and wipe away an employee's anxiety. However, can you implement, and this is coming out in book number 3, David.
Book number 3, all right.
Can you give the leader's blueprint? And the leader's blueprint is a blueprint of how you want your people to come to you. Too many leaders say, oh, they can come to me anytime.
Yeah.
And I've sat in front of a group of C-suites. Okay, so I call them the O's. So you got all of the O's in the room. And a boss says, hey, my people can come to me. And I said, time out. How do you want them to come to you? And the gentleman was very confused. Great person, great leader, meant well, was confused. And I said, here's the leader's blueprint. Here's the breakdown, you guys listening. Number 1, what method do you want them to use? Do you want them to knock on your door? Do you want them to old school phone call you? Do you want them to email you? Do you want them to Slack you? Never used it, but I keep hearing it. How do you want, what method? For me, I would love an email. Okay. The worst way to get anything out of me when I was a leader at an organization was to give me a company work phone. I never checked the daggone thing. I never knew where the freaking thing was. Then people are having tough conversations with me saying, you're not getting back to the team. So if you want anything from me, please don't do that.
Don't do that.
So number 1, what's your method? How do you want people? Number 2, what is the first few words that they can say that would grab your attention? My people know to say, hey, I have an idea that I think would help with ... Would love to know what you like, and is there anything you would change or fine tune? You got me. Now, I might say, hey, I got about 5 or 10 minutes. If this was face-to-face, I got about 5 or 10 minutes. We could do that. Great. If not, let's do tomorrow at 1 o'clock or Thursday at 3 o'clock. Which time works best? Leaders have to protect their time.
Right.
However, in the email, I can get to it and get back, and I don't have to say that.
That makes sense.
My wife knows, because this works professionally for work-life harmony. My wife knows all she has to do is say, hey, Dre, you got a second? I wanted to talk to you about something. I will stop the planet from spinning to give her my attention. Right. I will turn off the TV. I will put my feet up. I will get a glass of wine and cigar, because I've never had a bad time with a cigar and a drink in my hand.
No, I don't blame you there.
So she can say whatever. Now, if she doesn't, I still need to be mindful, but it won't go as smoothly. It typically doesn't go as smoothly.
As it goes, that makes sense.
Now, what method, what words, what's going to be, what do you need? What information do they have to provide you so you can help them? Right. So they're coming to you and they have an idea about something. Okay, so what do you need from the other departments? What do you need? What's the finance? So tell me what's needed. Now we can come up with a plan. and then now we can get going. But
Right,
without, like, now your people know the blueprint. They can choose to use it or not, but they have the blueprint. Did you, as a leader, give it to them?
Well, I like how, and again, everybody, I want to tell you about the book, The Leader's Toolbox. I think that's in chapter 4. You talk about expectations. And that's what I picked up off of that chapter was, laying out your expectations to your employees, laying out to your team, because if they don't know those expectations, they don't know, so everything that you said and then and coming back to them, I like that blueprint. I like that how you said that with the blueprint of somebody, because everybody has a different way, and it makes total sense. But it comes back to that part. And I really like that part, how you talked about what do you expect from me? What can I do for you? I like how you talked about that in there. Rob has a question here. I know he's been waiting on this one. How do leaders expected so much out of you, so very little training? Also, is it wrong for managers to compare time between coworkers?
So can you keep that in mind? I'm not sure if it's going to come up. So how do leaders expect so much with very little? That is a tough one, and not every leader operates off of that. However, it happens quite a bit. So I was years ago at a networking event, old school shaking hands networking, and a gentleman said to me, "Well, I'm new to the job." They knew that I was new, and at the conclusion of each of my projects, they ripped me apart, and I'm tired of it. I'm about to quit.
Right.
So as a leader, you're bringing on someone. I'm assuming you know how much they know or don't or need to know. So number one, what training or what expectations do you have? Are they realistic? What training are you going to do and how are you going to give it to them? Are you going to train them? Are you going to shadow? Are they going to shadow you? Are they going to shadow somebody else? Is it in-house training? Is it outside of the organization training?
Yeah, so much.
This is something that I teach in my bigger trainings. It's called a leader's book ending. So Rob's coming on and he's going to do a new task. My questions to begin is, Rob, what are you excited about regarding this project or task? Number two, what are you most anxious about? And please be honest. Be honest.
Right.
I love that ... Be honest. Okay. Yep. So now I know what you're excited about, what you're anxious about, my level of help that I'm going to have to give. Because please believe me, leaders are as busy as you are, if not more.
Yep. Correct.
So they don't mean to leave you in the lurch. Not all of them. Here's what gets missing. I asked Rob that question, and then I don't have my one-on-ones with him regularly. And by regular for me, I love it once a month. But if I know Rob is green and doesn't know, I might have to do it once a week.
Right.
And I can set it at 20 minutes. I've done my one-on-ones in 7 minutes. I've done it in 45. But we can if you can't spare 20 minutes, you got bigger issues.
Yeah, you do.
So now we go through that whole flow that I shared about the leaders one-on-one meetings. Now all of these things, Rob's anxiety or Rob not knowing what to do, or all of these things are not surprises to me.
Yep. Okay.
So now at the conclusion of the project, there's 3 big questions I want to ask Rob. Number one, what was your biggest takeaway from the project? Number 2, if you had to do it over again, what would you have done differently? Number 3, if you had to teach it to somebody else that's coming up behind you, what would you teach them? Having that conversation, perhaps in a one-on-one that's already planned, allows your people to digest the experience instead of constantly consuming, information, or they're busy. Let them digest it, because they don't know how much they now know. They really don't. They're so busy being busy. Most of us don't know how much we really know.
Right.
Most of you guys listening can write a book just like I did. This is the topic or concept or project. This is what you do about it, and step. And when I was, this is a mistake I made. And most people have a book in them. They just haven't ordered it like I did. So now when somebody else is coming up, now Rob can train them. So that's my first thing. Like, you got to know who you're hiring, what their capacity is. Does it match their superpower?
I always like sometimes through my career, and I've been on that other side too, where I should have spent more time with the person when I knew they were struggling.
Mhm.
I didn't. I'd be like, so I was in that group of some years and years. It's like, well, okay, well, we'll just find somebody else. I didn't take that time to say, okay, what's wrong?
Mhm.
Because I feel like somebody knew if they're not successful, and say you have a 90-day probationary period, if you're complaining about that person all the time, that's on you. Because if you haven't given that proper training, like you said, you haven't given that person the training and give them that one-on-one. I like that one-on-one like that,
Yeah.
because then that person, I think, alleviates the stress also.
Right. And are they not being successful because
Right.
they're incapable at the task? Are they
Right.
not being successful because there's other things going on in their life? I mean, God forbid something's going on with their kids, or maybe they're taking
Right.
care of the sick parent. Like who? There's so many things that could be going on, and at the end of the day, well, sometimes you may have hired them. Sometimes you inherit a team. You inherit
Yeah.
hires.
Yep.
And does flexibility play a part? They're really bad at this, but they could be really good at that. Like
That part.
there's some, is there wiggle room and flexibility? So every organization is different, but all of it will reflect your leadership.
Leadership. I wanted to ask you, when you do your seminar stuff, when you're meeting with the front line, and then you're meeting with like upper management in another meeting or like that, you I always think of like the top people. Wow, I guess you really have to. I know this sounds crazy, but be honest as hell. Like, wouldn't you? I mean, be like, this is what they're saying.
Yeah.
There's always two sides. Always get that. But I think sometimes the leaders need to hear that.
Yes.
You're on both sides, and how do you separate that? How do you?
Well, the order of it and the honesty of it really
Right.
helps. So out first, never meet with both sides. I don't meet with both
Right.
sides simultaneously.
I guess
Okay.
you wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah.
So number one, it depends. So my bigger program in the most perfect setting goes like this.
Right.
Here's one cohort. Let's do one cohort first. That's C-suite and middle management. Inevitably, C-suite is going to tell me in middle management, hey, this is what's going on. Good. This is some of our concerns.
Right.
Every now and then I'll have somebody say, well, we're all good. Okay. Then as you conclude, and now they're excited, they're ready to use it. I say, this is some of the stuff that's safe to use right now. Here's some of the stuff that I would wait. Let me do your frontline people so they can be as excited to receive it as you are to give it.
To give it. That makes sense.
A lot of times you're going to go to the world's best training as a leader. You're so excited to use, and let's be real. You go, it was great, or it was good, or it was bad. You
Right.
have some notes. You come back, you got fires to put out, 200, or 1,000 emails in your inbox. Oh my goodness. And now that paper sits in your desk until the next conference comes up and you don't use anything. For those of you who do more than that, and now you effectively want to use the one thing that really stood out for you, you
Right.
go to use it, but you don't get the reaction from your team like you wanted. And why would you?
No.
This is brand new information to them. They don't know this stuff. They weren't sitting with you. So now, because the reaction is not what you want, or you're busy, then it fades off.
For the talk.
So I share with the C-suite and middle management. I'm about to start giving and your people a very similar version of what you got.
Right.
They are also going to know what you know. So if they know what you know and you don't give it, it's going to be an implosion, and I don't want my name all over that.
Well, I can imagine. I know what you're saying. I can imagine.
Also preface it. I may hear some things, and I'll say this to the big leader that's bringing me in. Listen, I'm going to hear some things, and I won't share names. I don't want to throw people under the bus or
I
hurt
guess you really couldn't.
professional career. However, do I have your permission that if I hear something that I can come back and say, hey, this is a concern and this is something that I would suggest doing,
Right.
Okay. You want to preface that because I may come back and say, after I meet with the front line and I start hearing some things here or there, just because a frontline person or a perceived grouch is complaining, it doesn't mean that they're wrong.
No, I learned in the paper industry. You know what? I was a 20-some-year-old with everybody else had 30 years in the paper industry, and I was a new leader out of the military, if you want to say. And the ones that complain the most, I would find myself saying, "Oh, well, all they do is complain." But some of the stuff they had legitimate
points.
Yeah, they did. And I
One
was
of the
like,
things I hear, two big things I hear.
yeah.
So they said, middle management would say, how do I? So this is middle management's complaint. Here's frontline complaint. That's most
Right.
common. Middle management will say, how do I get people to do more and not just the bare minimum? And I say, number one, be careful, because bare minimum means that they're still doing their job. So here's what to do is what you're asking them to do more of. Is it in the policy? Is it in the handbook? If it is, then great. Then we can address that, and you can have a bigger higher up come and introduce something, and then pass it off to you, so you know your authority span. Because you go try to get somebody to do more than their job, and you don't have an authority span. And is this indefinite timing? Is this definite? Is this the new way? You need to partner with your higher up, so we can come and address it together. Same way as mom and dad, or dad and dad, or mom and mom go to the bedroom, talk about a plan, and then we come and address the kids together. Not to be disrespectful to kids and parents and things like that, right? But it's the same concept.
It's the same concept.
Then with frontline will say, this is the issue that we keep seeing. What do we do when management won't follow through? That's their big concern. So then it becomes, well, what is the complaint? What's really happening? Is this someone that if you address it, they're just going to complain about the next thing? But even still, the manager has to make a decision. Now, you can make a unilateral decision and say, okay, somebody's taking too many smoke breaks. Nobody has smoke breaks anymore. They're going to have 5 smoke breaks in 5 minutes, and then you wind up pissing off everybody,
That's so true. I'm sorry. That is so true.
Right. Yeah. Or you could go the flexible approach. Hey, look, this is what's going on, and this is how we're going to address it. Bop, bop, bop. You're never going to make everybody happy. Just know that off the top. And so there's different, I can go down that rabbit hole, and I do in trainings quite a bit, and we do it in role plays and things like that everybody dreads.
Yeah, I see you do that on your meetings. You'll do your favorite part of the seminar is always, we're going to do role play, you'll tell people. So it's pretty funny.
And they all dread it, because I was an employee, and I dreaded it. However, every time I do it, everybody does it, and they have a great time. And I will be the boss first. You just be you. You be the employee. You can act up, do whatever you want to do. I'll do it so you can see how having the tough conversation feels receiving it.
Right.
Then we'll switch, and somebody else will come up and we'll switch, because there's some front line. Let's back up for a second. I love doing this in cohort 1 with C-suite and middle management, because it's been a long time since they've received a tough conversation.
Yeah.
They typically give it and they jump into the problem instead of the person first. Okay. When I do it with frontline, one of the myths that most employees have is they really feel like their employer, the boss, wakes up like this. I can't wait to get up and ruin David's day today and go marching into work. They really think their boss can't wait to ruin their day.
No, right? Oh my God.
And when they have to switch and be the boss and deliver the tough conversation, most of the 99% of the time, the employee says, this is a lot harder than I thought. And I say, exactly. Your boss would rather not have to have this conversation. Most of them are as anxious as you are to have it, or prefer you not be making the mistake so they didn't have to have it. So, and then we break out, and I'll walk around and I'll pull up a seat. I am a ghost. I am not here. And the things that I'll hear people saying and using, and the words that they're using, and it's been an amazing, amazing experience. So at the conclusion of the program, the leaders are, and then we reconvene. I reconvene with the C-suite and middle management for an hour after the frontline concludes, and I say, okay, what do you need a refresher on? What questions do you have? This is some of the top 2 or 3 things that I see going on with your front line. This is what I would suggest. And then now, how do you move forward? You just did the training. You have the online program with shorter lunch and learns that you can go. So I'm still there, not physically, but I'm still there. but here's the top three things. I would do it in this order if you're going to do it, when you're going to do it. And it's been such an honor to be able to do it. Now, not everybody takes the bigger program, and the smaller ones still work, the one-offs still work. But yeah, the front line are amazing people, and they have so much to say, and they really enjoy learning it. So my big thing is asking everybody, what was your biggest takeaway? Because not everybody wants to move up to management.
No, God, no.
But how do you help them be great where they are?
Right.
How do you help the leaders appreciate them for staying where they are? Not everybody wants to be you as a leader.
Why do you think new leaders, or even some people, don't like to have those tough conversations? What I've learned, it would eat at me so much. I swear to myself now, being in a management role, that if I have an issue with someone or something needs to be addressed, I think you need to talk about it, that one-on-one, that or group, whatever you need to do. Because if you don't do that, it might solve it in the beginning, but down the long road, it comes back and it bites you. I just don't understand why some don't want to do that. Confront. They don't like it. It's part of the job.
I think I know.
Or they don't know how.
That's part of it. But the beginning part is most people are so uncomfortable with confrontation.
Right.
Because they view it as conflict. For me, I don't like having it either. If I had to have it with an employee or a person, I've done it in the past, and I don't like it either. I don't know anybody that likes it.
No, I don't.
However, everything that you do as a leader is for the betterment and the evolution and superlative. So when I say have a vision, I want an elite business. I want elite customer service. I want it to be the greatest. So us having this conversation is always about us being that.
Right.
So that's the way I view it, and not as a confrontation. So I think most people have a problem with confrontation because they view it as a conflict, not as an opportunity to get better, opportunity to help this person or evolve. And a lot of times now when you talk about the knowledge based on not knowing how to do it, most people in leadership positions are going to start with the negative first.
Yeah, that's true.
They're going to start with the negative. So I teach how to preface it, and it all starts with that connection. So I always want to know, like if we're on the team, hey, and that's from the first book of leadership, 7 Ways to Lead. Here's the 7 professional languages. What's your top 2? The one-on-ones, I want to know why you're here, what you want to get out of it. So when I come to have that tough conversation, I get to say, hey, David, you got a second? Hey, you remember that time when I said I might have to ask some questions or say something that's hard to hear, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't? See how you're nodding your head?
Yeah.
You ready? And you watch somebody brace for impact. Hey, you've been doing great with showing up on time. The team really seems to enjoy you. We enjoy having you here. You mentioned your language was advancement. It's going to be hard for you to advance. It's going to be hard for you to get your incentives. It's going to be hard for us to continue the way we're continuing with you showing up late so often, or you talking to the customers like that. Can you help me to understand what's going on with that?
See, I like the way you're asking those questions. The way you're asking those questions, I think it all comes in your book. I'm going to say it in our Leaders Toolbox there. The tone. One of your things was about give me a tone. Like the tone, the way you talk about it too, has a lot to do with it. Right. Like if you were coming to me and I had a problem with you, I like what you're saying, but I just think you, as a leader too, some have to come back and maybe your body language, everything could just be torn apart.
From where you sit in the room when you have it, most leaders want to sit behind. You call somebody in, they're already sitting behind your desk. When you call a frontline person in, or most people to your office, they already feel like they're in middle school, and you got called down to the principal's office, and everybody's like, "Ooh," you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So your body placement, your body language, starting the way I just shared, can you help me to understand what's going on with that? Most people are going to have an answer. Some people are going to say, I don't know, or you're right, I need to get better. I've been slipping. Some people are going to say, well, David hasn't been doing his job, so how can you come to me? But don't talk to me until you talk to him. Well, you don't know what they're going to say.
Right.
Wow, I appreciate you, sharing that. And then now what's the plan? Now, here's the part that most leaders want to say that there's a problem, they need to fix it, and that's the end of the meeting. Hey, we really need you here on time from now on. Everybody else is here on time. You need to be here at 8:00 and walk away. And You know, you
That
don't know
is
so I can go down that. Hey, the question is you not telling them what they need to do? Can you help me to understand what's going on with that? We want to keep great people like you.
right.
What do you think needs to happen on your end so you could get here at 8 o'clock and I don't have to have this conversation with you because I'd rather not have to have it?
Right.
Let them come up with the answer. I've heard people say, I just need to set my alarm clock better. I'm messing up. I'm sorry. Or look, my car broke down. I need to wait. Maybe I can wake up a little bit earlier. Maybe my wife or my husband can give me a ride to work. They know the issue.
Yeah, they do.
Most of the time they'll come up with a solution and you're like, all right, great. Please let me know how that's going. I'll check it back in with you in a couple of days or a week. Hopefully everything's all straight. We're good to go. You need help with anything, please let me know.
They do.
Some people every now and then, there's employees out there that are actively trying to get fired.
Yeah, and that brings me a question to you: is if you had to take back 20 years ago, managing now, and you've been there, do you see a big difference on how do you look at a new supervisor today, besides saying he's been promoted, but you brought somebody in? What's the difference from 20 years ago to managing now? I can imagine it's got to be totally.
20 years ago, you say jump, they say how high.
Right.
Old school, you come in, this is what we're doing. There's no explanation. It's more direct. Nowadays, you need a little bit more connection. Like you're selling your employment to them because they could swipe left on you. You never see it coming.
I know.
You'll never see it coming. They'll leave in droves. We talked before the show aired about a lot of time. People aren't working when they're 14, 15 like we were. I got my first job at 14, So they're coming into the workforce with higher expectations, with less experience. They're looking for a place that's going to be led, that's going to wow them. And I only bring in people that are positive, passionate, and productive. They have their requirements too now. They're not just looking for they're not just looking for a job, or all they're looking for is a job. If they're looking for more than just a job, then it's your job to provide that.
Yeah,
I agree. If all they're looking for is a job, then they can work anywhere. Why should they work for you?
I know.
So you're selling your leadership. You're selling your opportunity to work for them. Whereas 20 years ago, you were doing them a favor.
Yeah, we were just told in the industry, manufacturing, wow, man, you did it or you were gone. It was just that simple. You did your job. And I don't remember none of these problems back then, besides ones I made mistakes or some of them, but nothing like there is today.
Yeah.
I don't see that. And I keep saying to myself, what's the difference? And, age, maybe, but also just the industry, what industry you're in maybe too, or, and I'm sure you see it all there, but I don't know what to tell a new leader coming in today's world.
Well, I would say there's 3 C's. I mean, especially if you're going to look at hybrid and remote work, there's less connection than ever, in our world. So I heard a company once, say that they were building a building, and through COVID, they were like, well, what are we now going to do with this building? And they turned it in almost to like a resort for their people. Okay. And I said, the 3 C's. So you're getting people together intentionally to celebrate,
right,
to congregate, and to collaborate. Okay. So that's intentional because it breeds connection. People will complain about going to work 1 day or 2 days a week, but they need that because you can increase revenue that, not being together, but it's hard to increase culture doing that. So you need that. And also like how you're interacting. My assistant, she's in the Philippines. We will most likely never shake hands physically and see each other.
Right.
Therefore, if we only speak via email or our once a month Zoom meetings for one-on-ones, isn't every single thing I say and how I say it massively important? There's no
Yeah.
longer this gap of time in the office where you may think your boss or employee, because just because you're a leader doesn't mean you like all your people.
Right.
Frontline, just because they're, y'all might hate each other's guts.
Right.
However, you might catch that person at the elevator making somebody laugh or telling a joke, and you're like, all right, they're not that bad. Or you're sitting
Right.
down having coffee and they come in and ask you how your day is, and it soothes the dysfunction.
Right.
But if you don't have that and it's only remote or massively hybrid, you don't have those gaps of time to soothe anything. So everything you say and don't say via email or your virtual calls is massively important. So our language is important. What in the first session that I do, I talk about bully words, what to replace them with, because you could put but, if, can't, try, just, only, should, and deserve in an email and mess up a whole connection.
Yeah. Wow.
So what do you replace them with? So it's stuff like that really, and then the leader 7. If I know that Nicole, my assistant, world's best assistant, you need one, go to her.
Go to her.
I just asked her, because I update her, the 7 every year. What's your top 2 out of the 7 languages? She's recognition and affirmation and incentives. However, over the past 3 years, she's changed. When I first, hired her, year 1, she was recognition and affirmation and flexibility. Then she had a baby. So during her pregnancy, she was goodie time, and flexibility. Now she's recognition and affirmation and incentives. I need to know that, so when I'm talking to her via email or our Zooms, I can speak it.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah, because you know it now. It's all right. I get it. That makes total sense when you do that.
So I get to say to her, because she's recognition and affirmation, and I would say it anyway. However, it holds so much weight for her.
Right.
Hey, Nicole, I could not do this without you. Thank you so much for your creativity. You did an amazing job. Now, most people are going to smile at that, but if that's your language, recognition and affirmation, bing.
Bing. That's the way you go.
Right? Bing.
Right.
She's incentives. So every time we sign an agreement with a business, she gets a bonus. She loves that. For other people, it might not mean as much, but I know her language. So when you're consistently speaking it, yes, she can work anywhere. Yes, she can have clients worldwide. I want to speak her language to a point that she never wants to leave.
I love it. I love it. And you seem like you really know, like, your assistant like that. And when you get to know the people, I think it comes down to, like you said there, I like the language. I'm going to learn all that. That's in chapter. No, I got it right here. I know it's right here. It's on the chapter 3 or 4 or 5 right there.
I love it.
But what he's talking about is right there. And I want to thank, Andre. God, it's already 52 minutes.
Wow.
I just want you to know I spent 5 hours today on all these things. And I don't think I'm going to tell my wife I spent all this time today, and I don't even think you can talk about it all. And that's why I love leadership, about having you on, because you could talk forever about it. I mean, there's so many different things about what people expect today. And I like how you did it. And everybody, you got to get this book, The Leader's Toolbox. I'm telling you, 36, what do you got? 36, 37 chapters in here.
Well, and if you like the book, you can go to the website at youevolvingnow.com and you go to Evolve and Lead Online Training Program. It's the book in action. So it has a cohort for C-suite and middle management. It has a cohort for more frontline. And then a lot of companies and individuals, they like the
I saw that you have it for individuals too. There's an app, right?
Well, the app is more work-life harmony. So you'll get a question of the month, a quote of the month. The online program is the actual training. Okay. So that training, there's shorter lunch and learns in the leader's library. And it's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You can put that on. And I start with my POW, my POW, the positive of the week. I ask you yours if you're an individual or you're watching it as a team.
Right.
Then it has the content. And then it has the activity afterwards. Hey, this is the question to ask if you're watching this as a group, you're watching this by yourself. Here's the thing to write down in your book. So that if you love the books, if you love the videos, you're going to love that online program. Or connect with me via the website. I'd love to Zoom with you, and maybe we can talk about doing something for your company.
That's awesome. I got one more thing for you. How do you I wanted to ask you before, how do you learn and how do you train yourself? How do you learn more as you go? Because you have to, what's happening now versus 10 years from now, what do you do? How do you do that?
I'm a nerd. I tell everybody, be a nerd about whatever you say you love. So whatever your passion, I mean, if you love leadership, that's all I read. That's what I subscribe to on Instagram. And so every reel that pops up is about some type of personal development, work-life harmony, leadership. I tell people, if you ever see me pulled over on the side of the road somewhere, 9 times out of 10, I'm fine. I just had an idea and I need to jot it down. So if I showed you the notes section on my phone, that's so much of what I do. So be a nerd about your craft. Be a nerd about your wife. Be a nerd about your husband. Be a nerd about your kids. I'm a nerd about what I say I love. The other thing is I listen. Right. So every time I do a training somewhere, and we talked about I travel quite a bit.
Yep.
There's a mandatory self-care time because people think travel is all fun, and I love it. However, it takes a lot out of you to travel so much. So during my self-care time, I reflect. What was my biggest takeaway?
Right.
What conversation stood out that I had with a leader or an employee? Somebody will say something, and I'm like, "Oh, like that was huge." I know the answer, but I haven't written about it or I haven't recorded a video about it yet. So that's how I stay. Everything's a learning opportunity. Every single person is a learning opportunity. Just because they may be doing, and I'm going to put it in quotes, less than you, earning less at a less position. It's amazing what you can learn when you simply give people, when you're curious.
I do too, because I watch you, and and I'm not saying because you're on my show, I'm going to give you that, but my biggest takeaway from you always is the word evolve. I use it all the time. I like how you say that because I've been there, and I've learned it's okay to say you made mistakes, because I don't think I'd be where I am today if I didn't do all those. I always like to tell somebody new, say, hey, you better watch what you're saying. Don't do this or do that. I suggest something because I don't want them to go through what I did.
Yeah.
And I think that's my biggest takeaway from you because I like your shoes. Usually at your show, usually when you're doing your seminar, I always see your shoes and everything like that, and you're always showing your family. So I think people get to know you as a real person too. So,
thank you.
But I want to thank
anybody that's following. Thank you so much. I'm beyond humbled and honored to do what I get to do for a living. I cannot believe I get to wake up and do this every day. It's awesome.
Every day. Again, everybody, one more time, go to Amazon, the Leaders Toolbox. I'll tell you what, you will not be disappointed on that. So thanks so much, Andre. I'm going to talk to you right after this video, and we'll see everybody real soon.
Thanks so much.